Hello there and welcome back to another review. So today we're going to be having a look at Paul W.S. Anderson's Event Horizon, which is a film I always sort of liken to akin to sort of like Blade Runner. It didn't do necessarily overly that well when it was originally released, but obviously went on to gain a huge fan base, huge following when like released on video and home media and things like that. Really, that's like the home media market, really where it got its audience. I mean, the film really has developed quite a huge cult following, and with good reason. Really, I think this film was originally going to be like way longer than what we get in the finished product of the movie. But I think Paramount, the studios behind this, was sort of rushed it into post production because their other movie that was coming out, a little small movie known as Titanic, I think that had fallen behind schedule. So I think this film was pretty much rushed out, or the post-production phase was quite rushed in order, so like Paramount just had a movie. And the movie does feel like that. There are cuts and things missing as the film wastes no time in getting into things. And it was at this point, after Mortal Kombat had been a huge success, that Paul Anderson was given loads of offers, really, basically, because Mortal Kombat was, I still think it's one of the, if not the best video game adaptation that's ever been made. And I've always had a soft spot for Paul W.S. Anderson's movies. Like Event Horizon, I think he's a very good film. Mortal Kombat, obviously, is very good. I'm one of these people that I did actually enjoy Alien versus Predator as well. But as I say, after Mortal Kombat, he was given like basically loads of offers, really, to do whatever he wanted, because they obviously, like, film producers and companies saw, like, this was a very well talented filmmaker. He was even offered, I think, to direct like the first X-Men movie, but he chose to make Event Horizon. I think the film, above all others, we really see this film, Paul W.S. Anderson, the filmmaker. I think that really comes across in Event Horizon. Before he went down sort of the Resident Evil route, this is very much the kind of movie, what happens when you cross Alien, with sort of like The Shining. It's got sort of The Shining vibes going on with it. I think the whole idea was to set like a haunted house story in space, rather than sort of just doing, let's have another, because any film with an alien in space, it's going to be like you're just going to always compare it to, Ridley Scott's Alien or James Cameron's Aliens. It's always going to be likened to that. But I think the whole idea here was to make sort of a haunted house story in space, which is quite an interesting concept. The whole idea, what is clever with this movie, is that the ship is evil. It's the ship that is possessed, and like a lot of movies, it is sometimes what you don't see that makes it scarier. Made in 1997 and starring Laurence Fishburne and Sam Neill, and in what I would call a largely sort of great supporting cast. And it's easy to see after watching this movie why Fishburne was cast as Morpheus in The Matrix. He just has that stern, commanding sense of authority as the ship's captain. So is the movie any good, right? Is Event Horizon any good? Yes, it is. Yeah, Event Horizon, not exactly super major scary. It more than holds your attention. And if any movie has ever needed sequels, prequels, and more merchandise, then Event Horizon is definitely one of them. I've been waiting all this time for an Event Horizon sequel. I would love Paul Anderson to do a sequel or even a prequel or something like that. And it's so annoying sometimes that you get films that didn't have much of an audience anyway, but they get a sequel, they get a prequel, and all these kind of things that they didn't even deserve one. Event Horizon has always deserved a sequel or another film to sort of further expand that universe, and we're still waiting. So it's just one of them films. So I mentioned the editing and pacing can feel a bit rushed, but I think that is mainly the studio's fault. I'm not going to put that on Paul W.S. Anderson's shoulders, because I don't think that was his sort of fault there. I think the film was during post production. I think it was I don't think the care was taken in as much as it should have done. It was almost, like I say, it was a bit rushed. I think it was mainly the gore that was cut, as I think the film was originally going to be a lot more bloodier and gorier than what you see in the finished product. I think what you miss as well with some of the footage that was lost is mainly character development. Like, this seems like a good crew, and there's good characters here. And I as an audience, like watching this bit, I wanted to learn more about them. It could, like the cast in the original Alien, with Ian Holm and everybody there, and Yaphet Kotto and everything that you enjoyed them cast, that cast and them characters. But here you have a great set of characters, great cast, but you don't really throughout the movie get to learn any more about them, which is a real shame, because I really did want to learn more info about them, and just rather than just the surface layer. So you have a great cast, a great premise, and a film that is nothing but it's not boring. And something like this film of this nature, it's very easy to fall into cliches, but Anderson for the most part avoids them and delivers a great, entertaining, claustrophobic sci-fi horror. It's just a shame we'll never ever get to see. I don't think we'll ever get to see the original version or the original cut. I read somewhere the footage is lost, or it's I don't know, or deteriorated, or something along them lines. Because there is a much longer cut of this, or there was a much longer cut of this movie. So right away, you are hit by this hard-hitting techno soundtrack. We learn there are colonies on the moon, mining on Mars, and the ship, the Event Horizon, has been tasked to avoid other solar systems, but it's target other solar systems, but has all but disappeared. Okay. We're in the year 2047. I mean, I will say too, the exteriors and some of the visual effects really look cool. Like, the effects more than do their job, at least. I mean, for the time, this was 97, and if you remember going back to my Space Truckers review, effects at this time, at this point, after Jurassic Park, sort of Matrix time, it was hit and miss depending on the director, the budget, the studios, the people behind the movie, whatever, whether the CGI worked or the computer imagery worked. Here, for the most part, especially with the exteriors of the ships and everything, it looks quite cool. And I've watched it again recently, and they still hold up. More than do their job. We meet Sam Neill's character Weir, who has a whole shrine dedicated to his girlfriend, and is on this space station. We have the Lewis and Clark, which is a rescue ship and commanded by Captain Miller, Laurence Fishburne's character, and you just have to love his awesome swivel chair that he has in this movie. And also, suddenly Weir is on the ship, right? We hardly learn anything about him or see him boarding as such. Just suddenly he is there. And when I say this film, it feels like it's missing scenes. It just jumps. Where usually you would have him, you'd at least have seen him boarding or just meeting the crew or anything like that. Just suddenly, he's on the ship. Weir's a weird dream and sees his wife with no eyes. We learn that Peter's one of the crew, couldn't get time off, but Miller did try. He says, so this is a captain that cares about his crew, as none of them want to be there, and this is very much Weir's mission and not theirs. They do make a point very early on, cut to the chase, cut the crap. Look, what are we doing here? None of us want to be here. What is going on? So Weir fills us in that there's been a signal from the Event Horizon, the ship that's gone missing, and we learn that the ship could travel light years, and the company lied to the public about what happened, saying it blew up, but it didn't. It just sort of disappeared. And they've got a signal, and the Event Horizon is sort of Weir's baby, and he built the gravity drive on the ship, which allows basically for faster than light travel. The crew vanished, and it's been about, I think it's 7 years, they say, since it's got lost. And Weir has this recording from the ship, which they make out as saying, save me in Latin. So literally 2 seconds later, they find the ship. So this is what I'm saying. It's now other films, they would have probably taken much longer to get to their destination or where they was going to. Here, 2 seconds later, before you still don't even know who the characters are at this point. And we found the ship. No filler. No getting to know the crew, bam, we're right at the Event Horizon. Really could have done even just a couple of minutes, just even just a little bit of dialogue between the characters, just a little bit of something to just make us learn a bit more about these people, just so we felt we got to know them, or just an extra bit of breathing space. So Miller needs Weir to guide his team as they investigate the ship. I think as well you could argue it's probably not only Anderson's best directed film, but it's also his most atmospheric. And it's I reviewed the Resident Evil movies quite a while ago, and it's a shame. Obviously Paul W. Anderson enjoyed directing them. I know they made a lot of money. I still to this day don't think they're very good. I think the first film's okay. But by and large, for the most part, I think the Resident Evil movies are largely forgettable. I know, as I say, people absolutely love them. But here, at this point, it was like Paul Anderson had so much sort of potential. Like I said, I absolutely love Mortal Kombat, love Event Horizon. And so I think here with this film, we really do get the filmmaker in Paul Anderson, and we really do get, and I say, it's definitely his most atmospheric film by far. I mean, it would have been great if he put some of the traits he uses here into the Resident Evil movies. Like there is this trippy, like spinning corridor on the ship. Peter finds a corpse with no eyes, and they find the gravity drive, which the young one of their crew, Justin, sort of gets sucked into, and everything just explodes. I think what is refreshing about this film, if it had gone down the Alien route, it would have just always been, like mentioned, just compared to Alien. But there is so much about this movie that we don't learn about, and I think that is part of the brilliant mystery. Sometimes what we don't know, what we don't see, and that sense of mystery is sometimes a lot more entertaining as an audience member, because you're like, okay, what is going on, because you're not even sure and you don't know sort of the whole story yet. So they all have to get on the Event Horizon after a shockwave that damages the Lewis and Clark. They have 20 hours and there is bloody floating hands and God knows what on the horizon. Justin is completely gone and mentally checked out at this point. So we learn that the gravity drive is able to travel space-time, and we're positive that it can't open by itself and there is no danger. It is the idea that we don't know where the ship has been and what it has brought back at this point. That's what the intrigue and the mystery here. When I talk about like a haunted house type of horror, this is like I say, just a haunted ship basically. This ship has gone somewhere, we don't know where, but it's come back, and the whole premise is like the ship is haunted. It's brought something with it. It's brought something that is sort of inhabiting this ship, whether it's a force, an entity, whatever it may is, but it's sort of surrounded in evil. And that's a really interesting premise for a movie and a story. Is it, say, what we don't know. So I love how Peter's one of the crew hears a noise and right away grabs a blade. Don't even know what we are dealing with yet, but I guess it doesn't hurt to be cautious, does it? Just grab the nearest thing you can. So Peter sees her son. There is a power drain, and Justin starts going crazy, talking about the dark. Sam Neill's character sees his ex again with no eyes, telling him to be with her forever. Then, like, this burning body comes out of the water, which Miller sees as Weir is Weir's busy in the duck. So they're all experiencing different things and seeing things which are more like hallucinations. Well, they're more than hallucinations. The film is never short on the atmosphere that it's trying to convey. Stark thinks the ship brought back a life force of some kind. Justin comes to and goes onto the airlock with no suit and engages the override. When Miller comes to save Justin in his suit on the outside of the ship, again, when talking about the special effects, they look fine. They really do look fine. Even now, in this day and age, the special effects in this, I don't think they look too dated. They're not, they haven't aged too bad. I've seen films even later than this that have aged much, much worse. But by and large, overall, the effects, and like I mentioned, definitely the exterior shots of the ship and when they're outside, really look fine. Really look totally fine. So more than hold up. So Justin says about the darkness inside him. Miller wants some answers and believes the ship gets inside your head and shows you your fears and regrets. DJ, played by Jason Isaacs, works out that the Latin recording actually was saying save yourself from hell, and we find out the ship has been beyond the boundaries of the universe, and we have no idea what it has seen and brought back. And like I say, I absolutely love that setup. I think that's really cool. They find footage of the previous crew like mutilating each other with the captain even holding his own eyes. And I think this bit here with the mutilation and what they're doing, I think this was the scene that went on quite a lot longer. I think this is where a lot of cuts were made. I think it was going to be a lot like this orgy. I think they even didn't they? Did I read somewhere they had like even real porn stars or something in the scene or something like that? I don't know, but I think it was meant to be much more in the original cut, and I think the studios thought it was a bit too violent for the film they were trying to market. So Kathleen Miller, who has had enough, just wants to blow up the ship, and this is when Weir begins like sort of acting weird. Peters gets lured in by a vision of her son and falls to her death. Weir thinks he is at home with his wife. We learn that she committed suicide by cutting her own wrists and bleeding out in the bath, saying "You are with me now," as he like gorges his own eyes out, or rather like she does. Miller thinks Weir has put one of the explosives from the horizon on the Lewis and Clark, which blows up Smitty and the ships, another character. So Cooper gets blown up into space and tries to use his own tank to get back to the ship. Weir, now with no eyes and fully possessed, attacks DJ and sort of hangs up by his own skin with his organs removed as well. And like I say, yeah, I do think this film would have been would have absolutely loved to have seen this just as it was originally, with all the violence and gore just still intact. So Miller goes after Weir. Like I say, the cast in this movie are great, and they all play their respective parts amazingly well. I just wish we could have learnt and discovered more about them. That's the one thing that I think the film does falter on. You've got a great crew here, likeable cast, but unfortunately, they're not just given the dialogue and the scenes they need to sort of just expand their characters a bit more. So Miller finds Stark and sees Weir in the captain's chair and reveals the Horizon has been to a different dimension. Basically, it's been to a dimension of pure chaos, pure evil, just a nasty, nasty place, which for some reason or another has made the ship alive. So Cooper on the outside is still using his air tank, lands on the outside of the ship, causing Weir to shoot at him, causing a massive breach. Weir gets sucked out and Miller saves Stark. Cooper comes in through one of the locks. Weir has activated the gravity drive to take them all back to the dimension. Miller plans to blow up the ship and use the first 4 decks as a lifeboat. Out of nowhere, Weir returns in pure Hellraiser. He's got like the sort of a Pinhead vibe going on at this point. And it's to say, with Sam Neill and Laurence Fishburne there, you've got 2 great actors there who really do carry the film through from start to finish. Really, 2 actors, and they really bounce off and act together really well. But so he goes in pure Pinhead form, minus the pins, first disguised as Miller's old buddy. We're looking very pale and with cuts all over his face, and I think he's meant to be like naked too. So yeah, sci-fi Pinhead going on, sci-fi Hellraiser, if you can imagine such a thing. As the gateway opens, Miller blows the ship up, shows the ship killing himself and Stark. Cooper and Justin get picked up by the rescue team. Who has been put into stasis. We have a double wake up trick at the end where Stark sees Weir as one of the rescue squad, but then she really wakes up and the film abruptly ends. It ends really when at the end there, when Stark wakes up and her and Cooper and Justin get out, she sort of has this double take of her waking up, and then it just ends with her sort of being comforted, and the film just ends like that in a state of shock. And then this hard-hitting techno music comes back to sort of take you by surprise. But I really do like this movie. It's not perfect. It's not perfect by any means, but there's a lot going on here. There's a lot to enjoy. It's a great premise. It's a great setup. There's great performances, great atmosphere, and all these nuances that make it a great sci-fi horror, and one you really must check out if you've never seen it. And it's great that a lot of people love this movie as well. I'm really pleased that it's got a fan base and has really taken on a life of its own, Event Horizon, because I'd say if any film was deserving of a sequel, remake, prequel, whatever it may be, spin-off, TV show, then Event Horizon is something that is long overdue. Not as classic as Alien, but it adds enough new things to the sci-fi horror that gives it its own identity, and I would absolutely love Paul Anderson to step back into this universe and give us another chapter of the Horizon story, which I've been waiting so long for. So thank you very much indeed for watching. If you love Event Horizon, let me know in the comments below. Hope you enjoyed the review, and I'll see you again soon.
Don't concentrate on the finger or you will miss all that heavenly glory.